Start recording, Crystal. There you go. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to CEC28 special meeting. This is a special meeting that was called specifically to discuss a resolution and also to discuss our bylaws, as it's an ongoing process that we are editing our bylaws to bring it up to date. So it's not going to be a long meeting, but I want to make sure everyone is aware who's on this call tonight that this is not our regular calendar meeting. This is a special meeting which the council called, but all of our meetings are public meetings. That's why we had to let the whole community know that we are having this meeting. So everyone who has joined us, you are more than welcome to listen in. You're more than welcome to, listen in, yeah, literally. But only the council members will be deliberating or voting on the resolution that will be proposed today about school budgeting. Ted, our council member Ted Chang, sponsored this resolution, and he'll discuss more about it. So let's do a quick roll call as we go through this. So I'm Vijay Ramjan, president of CEC28. I am here. Barbara Williams, our first vice president.
I'm here.
Our second vice president, Elena. Okay, so at this point, she's not here. Then we'll call on our recording secretary, Erica Cooper.
Present.
Then we're gonna have our treasurer, Andy Meades King.
He's here.
Yeah.
See him.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you so much, Andy. Then we're gonna have members Ted Chang.
Here.
Micah Morrison. Not here. Then
Is
we're
that
gonna call
unexcused?
unexcused, yes. For unexcused. So is Elena. I did see she asked in the chat, what it's about, but I haven't heard back anything from this. So I would say at this point, so far, Elena unexcused, Michael unexcused, Robert Tamayev, unexcused, and then members Howard Pollock.
Present.
And member Rajwinder Kaur.
Present.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point, again, we don't want to have this meeting a very long meeting, as we know we've been having lots of meetings, so we want to also, some members have to run earlier on, so we're going to ask you all just to keep it very to the point, and let's keep our discussions going and get to the process. So this time I'll pass it over to member Ted Chang to present his resolution. Ted Chang.
Thanks, Vijay. Hello, everyone. My name is Ted Chang, and I am the chair of the Equity Committee. And equity just involves so many things. But right now, what is on the minds of a lot of folks is, how we're going to pay for everything. In the schools, because the expenses this year have been through the roof.
We can't hear you, Ted.
Ted, we cannot hear you.
Okay. So
Ted, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, pardon us while we try to figure out what's going on with Ted's audio. Can you text him really quickly, Crystal, let him know this?
I also text him in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. While we wait, I want to acknowledge Dr. Pate, who is here with us. Dr. Pate, thank you for being here with us. Always present. Long days, long evenings, long hours. We'll have you say a few words after, right after, just quickly to the parents who are here.
This is ours. We're here.
Yes. Is Tara, are you back on? No, so Dr. Page. Dr. Pitts, you want to bring greetings to the parents in the meantime?
Absolutely. So good evening, everyone. Good evening. It really is an honor to be here. I don't know about you. I get excited when I see this. This is our own legislation. This is our own bill making, law making, and it's an exciting time to be with you all, with all of us, as we participate in our CEC, creating really resolutions and recommendations for the New York City Department of Education. I hope that you're excited like I'm excited, because it really, to me, seems like this is exactly the work that should be happening across districts, across New York City. And I couldn't be more proud that this is happening in District 28. I do encourage you to reach out and bring someone else. When these meetings are called, I can tell you, yes, we have a frequency. We're increasing our frequency of meetings. The business of schooling and the role that parents play in ensuring that schools are in this resolution funded well, organized well, well supported by our elected officials. This is the work of leadership. And so we can have 12 meetings a month. I don't care. This is the work that we should be doing. And it is an honor to be here with you. And so thank you on behalf of everyone who participated in this resolution, and who are bringing this forward to the New York City Department of Education. I know, as a statement of fact, District 28 is making a difference. It's making a difference in New York City DOE. We are making a difference. So be proud of the work that you are doing. And I am proud to be in the audience. I'm proud to be here to observe it on tonight.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pate. Thank you so much for all that you do and for all the support that we do. As you say, this is a partnership, and we are glad to be a partner with you and your office. Thank you so much. Okay, at this time, is Ted back on? Ted?
I'm back here.
Okay, so take it away. Go ahead, Ted.
Thanks, VJ, and thank you very much, Dr. Pate. Very well said. And I apologize. It's a classic 2021 moment. The iPad glitched out, and I had to leave the meeting and rejoin. You know, that's something all the kids have been going through this year. So, you know, if it's happening to us, it's happening to kids who don't have a parent hovering over them at every moment, and they're struggling too. And so that's just a moment, you know, a moment for all of us to reflect on what's been happening, the struggles we all been having. So I'll just start from the beginning, because I'm not sure how much anyone heard, but basically, you know, this school year has just been a massive one-time shock to the school system in terms of the expenses. And probably the biggest expense has been the student-teacher ratios, because, you know, normally, it's 32, 33, 34 to 1, suddenly going to, you know, 10, 12 kids per class, and for the in-person portion of the learning. And while some of that has, you know, and then that has caused the remote classes to balloon. And so basically, you know, the schools have had just a tremendous funding shock. You know, we've had kids that have just kind of dropped out of the school system, and we don't know where and this has happened nationwide. And so we don't even know where some of these kids are. Now, granted, some of them are just young kids that the parents decided to keep home because they were kind of at that, you know, very young age already, but there are also older kids who kind of just fallen out of the system as well. And so and school funding is per student. So as students have not enrolled this year, that has impacted school funding as well. So there's just, you know, and then they've had to do all kinds of upgrades to school ventilation systems and, you know, things that were probably simmering and were considered low priority. Suddenly this year, everything shot to the top, and everything had to be done immediately. And the DOE had to buy hundreds of thousands of iPads, and and probably had to pay top dollar for it, because every other school system was trying to buy iPads at the exact same time. And so, you know, for a host of reasons, funding our school system has always been incredibly important, but especially in this year, it is really important that we get resources to the school system so that our educators don't have to worry about, the things that they shouldn't be worrying about, and they can focus on teaching our children. So I guess, why don't I just kind of walk through the resolution a little bit.
You want to share the resolution, Ted, so we can all see it?
Yeah, I've got it. I'm sharing my screen right now.
Thank you.
Sure. So, so it kind of starts out with talking about, equity and resources and funding. And as the chair of the equity committee, equity means a lot of different things. But at its core, it's finding out, who needs what and making sure we meet them where they are. So it's not necessarily like, oh, we just give everyone the same thing. It's, this student is an English language learner. They came to school only speaking Mandarin or only speaking Korean, and we meet that student where they are. And to meet that student where they are, part of the way we meet that student where they are is with funding, because it takes extra class. It takes, those students get extra, support from teachers, and we have students that require support from specialists. We have classrooms with smaller student teacher ratios. And so every single way in which the Department of Education provides equity to students requires resources. And so at the bottom of all of these equity discussions that we have in New York City is funding. But I also want to emphasize that funding is a floor and not a ceiling in terms of equity. We cannot provide equity without funding. But once we have funding, that is when we actually go and figure out how to equitably serve the students. And, funding has been a struggle for decades, literally decades in New York, for New York City schools. And it's not necessarily well known outside of sort of, CEC members, but there have been three major court cases that made their way through the court system starting in the 1990s. And every time the New York courts ruled that, the school system, the state government was underfunding urban schools. And so therefore, it was the duty of the governor and the state legislature to provide more funding to our school systems. But for many reasons, including just the very difficult politics of the issue, and because no one ever wants to pay for anything, people like to have things, but no one ever wants to pay for it. The school system has never actually been fully funded under this mandate. And plus we had a recession in 2009. So there have been a lot of factors that contributed, but funding has always, the New York City school system has always been underfunded. And so if you take that position of perpetual and chronic underfunding, and you add to it the pandemic of 2020, that really has shocked the school system. Now, luckily, the federal government last year and this year stepped in and really decided that they were going to help school systems. And so there were three different efforts, three different sort of congressional bills that made it through both houses of Congress. The first one was for $1 billion. And what happened with that first package, though, is that as soon as the New York State government got that money, the New York State government did not pass it through to New York City schools. So what actually happened was that the governor took it out of the New York City school budget, even though it was intended for the New York City schools, or for the New York State schools, I should say. He took it out of the education budget and just basically used it to cover revenue shortfalls for the state overall, fiscal problems. Then in December 2020, another major bill made it through Congress, and an additional 4 billion was allocated to New York State for education purposes. But again, with that bill, there was also the problem of supplantation of funding, which is that, you know, there are no restrictions on what happens to that funding. So if the governor again decides to use that funding to fill a, you know, a funding shortfall at the state level, then we might never see any of that funding at the New York City level. And then finally, you know, now we have a new administration, and the first thing they did was they passed a, you know, $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan Act. That was signed into law in March. And so out of all these three packages, apparently $7 billion was intended and slated for the New York City schools. But the real question is that will we see that money? You know, we know that we have had a lot of really big expenses this year, but how much of that money will actually make it through to the New York City schools? And I'm not a budget analyst, and I don't know, you know, the intricacies of budget negotiations, but I do know that our kids, you know, need every dollar that they can get so that the teachers can do the work that they need to do. You know, we've had so many additional expenses with buying technology and trying to manage so many different types of learning modalities with in-person and with remote, and having so many teachers that, you know, needed to be hired, and not even being able to hire all of those teachers. And, you know, we had to purchase a lot of equipment, and then there are a lot of needs that are specific to the pandemic, like counselors and social workers, because of the unique needs of what are happening right now. And one example that I can think of is attendance. You know, we have a lot of kids that are logging into remote, but how do we know how engaged those kids are? And when we notice that a kid is having trouble with engagement, what can we do about it? You know, that ultimately requires resources. If you can't hire a social worker to, you know, follow up with every single child that is, you know, that there's something that you suspect something is going on at home, and that they're not engaged, or that they're not attending school, if you can't follow up with the social workers and with the counselors to address those issues, and there might be something happening in a household, there might be someone might have just passed away, and they just, you know, stopped coming to school, and we don't know until we talk to the family. So, but these things all require resources, and of course this year there is a much bigger need to be reaching out to families and talking to them and finding out what's going on and finding out how we can support all those families. And the only way that the school system can do that is if it has the money to do that. So, you know, there's in the most recent bill, there's a $251 million pot of money specifically dedicated for coronavirus testing. And right now, you know, the DOE just announced a new opt-in period. And so we're expecting more kids to be brought back into the schools. And so testing requirements are going to increase. And finally, just, you know, a lot of schools are dealing with these budget clawback issues that, you know, depending on what happens with their school register next year, and, you know, depending on how much they're spending this year, you know, some schools are maybe on the hook. And you know, it sounds like the DOE is going to try to hold schools harmless for register loss, but, you know, I don't know what other kind of issues that schools might be dealing with, where they might be going into next year with deficits that they'll be responsible for. And if they go into a school next school year with a deficit that they're responsible for, the only way they can deal with that deficit is by cutting staff. So for all these reasons, you know, school funding is really important. So essentially, you know, I think what I wrote into the resolution was just that I don't want to get too much into the details and into the weeds of, the budget negotiations in Albany, but because, that's not really that's not really what our focus is. Our focus is that we want the funding, and how the legislators in Albany and how the governor negotiate that and figure that out I think is up to them. But just at a high level, we do know that, there are, just over 100 New York billionaires that have seen their wealth increase by, tens of billions of dollars in this last year alone. And we know the federal government has allocated $7 billion of federal funding to the New York City school system. And we do know that the New York City school system and many urban school systems in New York State have been underfunded perpetually. And so, I think as a CEC, I would just like us to just raise our voices right now and express our desire to see the schools fully funded, and do so in a way by, it should require generating revenue from those who can put in their fair share to invest in the future of our state, because the kids are the future, and it is extremely short-sighted to underinvest in the most important resource of our city, which are our kids. When we invest in our kids, that investment pays itself back many times over. And there are countless economic studies that demonstrate every dollar invested in children pays itself back over and over. When we invest in children, that means that we don't have to pay for homeless shelters, that we don't have to pay for prisons and jails and policing and all these other things and all these other social justice issues that we talk about that are in the public discussion right now. We can address those things on the front end with education funding. And that's what there's so many economic studies that demonstrate exactly that fact. So right now, the legislature in Albany is negotiating the state budget right as we speak, and it could be done in the next week. So it is really important for us to raise our voices as a CEC and as a community, and let them know that we want the funds, and then I guess it's up to the politicians at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Sorry. Thank you, Ted. Erica, you want to say something? Go ahead.
No, I just was saying thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted, for that great talk and the resolution. So at this point, we leave it up for questions for anyone of the council. Do you have any questions for Ted? Crystal, I'm on my phone, so I can't really see who's raising their hands, etc. So Erica, I'll turn it over to you. If you can help me with calling anyone in order of the raising their hands just to ask questions, I appreciate it. Is that okay?
Sure,
Thank you.
that's fine.
And,
Thank you.
and VJ, really quickly before we address any questions, could we give instructions to the public on putting speak in the chat so that we can hear their comments immediately after the questions?
Sure. So dear community, once again, so welcome to this special meeting. So if you would like to have a question about this resolution, or you have any comments, or you want to make a statement, let's put the word speak in the chat function of this app here, of this Zoom, and then we'll call you in the order in which you put the word speak. And Elena, you could probably help us out. I want to acknowledge Elena is here. Elena is also here today, so she's not present. So Elena, after Eric is finished with council questions, then maybe you can take over with public questions. Is that okay, Elena?
Yeah, that's fine. I already put it in the chat.
Beautiful. So Erica, I hand it over to you
Okay,
if there's any
no
council
problem.
members.
So I'm just gonna go to each council member one by one. If you have
Perfect.
a comment, a question, please just do so. So Barbara, on you have any questions or comment about the resolution?
I'm for the resolution and I have no question on it.
Thank you so much. Elena, you have any questions about the resolution?
I do not. I'm good with it. Thank you so much. You're muted, Erica.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rodrinda, do you have any questions about the resolution that Ted just presented to us?
No, I'm okay with that. I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Andy, are you still with us? No, I think we lost him. Okay, and VJ, did you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Oh, there go Andy. Okay, Andy.
Yeah. My only thing, right, is that I have a very clear understanding of how the budget system works with the school system, and what happens is that our principals in our district, right, are the person that actually requests repairs and what remedial work needs to be done at the schools. So my whole thing is that if we educate our principals in this aspect, like in terms of giving them more information of what is needed in our community, especially in the South Side, I think that that our schools is going to get more a bigger cut of the pie, because many times I've seen in many budget presentation that actually was presented to us that you have one school have been renovated 3-4 times, and there is other schools there that need a simple bathroom, you know what I mean, and these basic things, and they can't get it. So my whole thing is getting a little bit more concern of where this money is going to be targeted, because we have the overall budget for the schools, and yes, but where exactly would this money be going? Because I deal with budgeting and construction all the while, and I have a very, very good knowledge of exactly what's going on. And if you don't put in those in the estimates, when the budget is read and the money comes out, you won't get anything. So that's basically my concern with this whole budgeting, because yes, it is there in numbers and whatever, but if you don't put in what you need when this budget is read or agreed upon, our schools won't get anything. So seeing it on paper don't mean anything. What did our schools requested? Which part on the waiting list are they? Who is priority? That's basically what I need to know coming out from this budget, or include that into the budget, or the presentation, or whatever we're doing. We need to get a principal put more input in terms of what they need and where on the waiting list it is, what is priority, because a lot of our school bathroom and a lot of our schools in the South Side don't have the basic stuff. And here again, we got a budget, and then the budget is going to go whatever, and then we won't get nothing again, and then back to square one. Are we going to go back on the debate again and again and again? That's my contribution.
Okay, Andy, thank you so much for that input on the resolution. I will have Ted to respond to that. Is there anything that you can help?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a tough question, and I mean, I remember when we were kind of going through the list of schools, and we were going through in just specifically in terms of like major capital projects, and one of the schools told us that they still had, you know, the girls using a bathroom that was originally a boys' bathroom from the it was like the 1970s or something, and had never been, all this time had just never been renovated. And you know, and we see other schools that have, you know, brand new additions and all kinds of renovations going on, and it kind of makes you wonder, it's like, how do those decisions get made? But I don't know that we can really resolve that in this resolution. Those
right
are really,
now, it's just to get the money.
those are really important questions, and
okay.
and we do need to. I guess that's our job as the CEC, to continue to sort of push for, once the school system does get the money, we as the CEC need to push to make sure that money goes to, you know, the places it needs to go.
Definitely.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. And now, Howard, any questions for Ted regarding the resolution?
Well, you know, the thing is, no one's going to disagree with getting more money for our schools. I mean, that's why we're here, to get the most resources we can for our kids. I don't want there to be any disillusionment with this. We are adding our voice to a chorus of so many people throughout New York State demanding equality of funding, especially for New York City schools. In 1993, there was the Campaign for Fiscal Equity was launched, in which New York State was actually sued for not providing adequate funding for school systems throughout New York State. To date, I think New York State owes the various school systems throughout the state over $4 billion in funding. The issues are that, yes, absolutely, we need more funding for schools, number one. Number two, in this fiscal climate of austerity, it's simplistic to say tax the billionaires. Even the president has had to come down from his $400,000 figure to $200,000 figure. And then there was some issues over what he meant originally. That being said, I don't want folks to say, well, you know, we're going to get the money. We're probably not going to get the money we're due and owed. We can demand it. We need it. Our kids are suffering from remote learning. We have wonderful educators and administrators, but they can't do without the adequate resources. So yes, I would support this resolution, but you know, we have to be realistic here, and I want everyone to be realistic. We are going to suffer in New York State and New York City because there's not a lot of funding for things. But I think what we're trying to say is, because there's not a lot of funding for things, we need to prioritize our children. And that's what we're here for. That's my statement. And I agree with the rest of them. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And I believe I see Robert is in here. Is that just his name, Robert? Are you there? No? Okay.
Yes, sorry. Hi, sorry, I am. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it looks good, but I agree with Howard. This isn't anything new. But yeah, I mean, we need to get money for the kids, so it doesn't hurt to have another button to say, yes, give us some more. I agree.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. That completes all the members. Elena, is there anybody in the chat that has any questions that wants to speak? I don't see anybody. So,
Can I jump in now, Erica?
I'm sorry.
That's
Yes.
all right. So, Elena, are you there?
She didn't respond. I just looked in the chat. I didn't see any questions from any other parents or
And no one marked the word speak, right?
correct.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to go around the room now and just do a quick vote in all in favor of the resolution that Ted presented. Ted, I will only make one request to you, like in the future, if you're doing any kind of like resolution like these, it'll be great to include all the members of the equity committee on these things, and just get input from them. And, you know, once we have the committee support, it'll be great to see, you know, this is from a committee, you know, it's nice that you are presenting this. It'll be great if other members of the council could also be co-sponsors of these resolutions, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Ted. So at this point, we're going to go to do a vote. We'll move to a vote. And I'll just call your name, and then you can just say how you vote. I just want to acknowledge our member, Robert Tamayev is here. So he's not marked absent. He's present. So Vijay Ramjan, President, yes, I'm in favor. First Vice President, Barbara Williams.
I'm in favor, yay.
Yay. Second Vice President, Elena Amenova. Elena. Maybe she's having technical issues. I don't know. Can someone text her? Just check in with her really quickly. We'll move along. Recording Secretary Erica Cooper.
Yes, in favor.
Treasurer Andy Matus King.
Yes, I'm in favor.
The King. All right. Next, we're gonna have Ted Chang.
Yes, I'm in favor.
Are you sure?
I hope I am.
Are you sure? Okay. Next, we're gonna have member Michael. Well, Michael is not here today, right? Robert Tamayev.
In favor.
Thank you, Robert. Next, we have Howard Pollock.
I'm in favor.
And next, we have Rajendra Kaur.
In favor.
Okay, thank you all. Did we get in touch with Elena?
No,
No.
Elena.
No, Elena. All right, so
I think she stepped away from the computer.
okay, but she did say in the beginning that when we asked a comment, that she was in favor. Is that correct? She had no questions. I'm in favor.
Yes.
Okay, so then I think we have passed this resolution. Congratulations, Ted, on putting this together, and congratulations to all of CC members and advocating for more resources for the children of D28. Thank you so much. Now we're gonna move along. We're doing good on time. Ted, we're gonna have like a few more minutes to talk about the bylaws. Take it over. Go ahead.
Is BB in the meeting yet? I guess she's not. Oh yeah, BB. Can we put BB on the panel?
Yes.
Okay. Let me share my. Let me get the bylaws out to share here.
Anyone opposed to BB being on the panel? Okay. Thank you.
I do. I'm just kidding.
Barbara.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, so we, just for those members of the public that are sort of seeing the bylaws for the first time, we've had a couple of meetings in March to kind of hash this stuff out. We were, I guess it's just kind of around this time, the council is sort of finishing up, and the DOE has sent around a template and wants all the councils to sort of do to bring their bylaws into compliance with all the new regulations. And so we're kind of redoing our bylaws right now and trying to get it ready for the April meeting. So we already had a meeting and we pretty much got a lot of stuff done on it, but there are just a couple of things that were not addressed in the last meeting that I just wanted to sort of bring to everyone's attention, because when we talked about it, we decided what we were going to do. And then when I was going through the draft, I realized that it sort of raised these things. So I just want to say what those things are. So in the elections section, what I recall from our elections in July of 2019 was that the presiding officer pro tem that was supposed to run the elections meeting was supposed to be someone who was not actually running for office. And BB, can you sort of confirm that?
That's correct. And your
Okay.
pro temp usually is an officer who is not running for office. And if you have an administrative assistant, it's turned over to that person if all members are running for a position.
Okay.
So your administrative assistant will open the election for the president, and then the president takes over and completes the election.
Right. And I see what you're saying. And then let me ask you a question, because the bylaws, the template was written as if we were going to hold the elections in July, but since we're going to hold it in September, does that mean we should be electing a president pro tem for a couple of months? Because just sort of like a temporary president, so that if our council needs to do anything, we actually have a president that can do something. Because if we don't have a president, then it's like we don't have any power to do anything as a council for 2 months.
You have all your powers are still intact. 6 votes can pass. You mean
Oh, I see.
leadership? You're talking about leadership, but the council doesn't need a president office in that office position to function. 6 votes.
Okay.
I will say that since you've moved your elections to September, the highest ranking officer will preside over your meeting and chair it.
If
Returning highest
someone,
ranking officer. I think you have some background. Can you hear me?
You're welcome.
Yes. Hey, boys, you need to be quiet. I'm in a meeting. Sorry about that. So yeah, so you're right. It should be the highest ranking council member, and then but if no one returns from the previous council, or if no officer returns from the previous council, would you advise having a president for 2 months, a temporary president for 2 months, or would you not advise that?
I would advise that you have your elections in July if you so choose.
But we decided at the last meeting that we were going to have our elections in September.
Right, but you are bringing up, go ahead. I think VJ is trying to speak.
Sorry, I apologize. I don't recall that part. Maybe I wasn't present. Maybe I had my computer when that happened. But yeah, I'm confused as to why we would want to do our elections in September when the council is formed already in June, and then July meeting, we can have the elections to have a president, a full functional body. I mean, if for whatever reason we can't reach the consensus of a president, then we could continue in August and September. But if we leave it to September, then it could mean the school year starts, and then we don't have a president for maybe September, October, November, right? Because I think other councils that had this issue where they couldn't agree on a president. So I would strongly suggest to give us more time, this council and the future councils, more time, and if we could go back and discuss that again to be in July.
Erica, do you want to weigh in? Because you had raised some issues about July versus September.
Yeah, I don't remember the discussion either. So if we can.
Yes, we did have that discussion, and at the last meeting about the bylaws, and it was saying that how a lot of people don't show up in July, and it was the issue about, you know, members not being there and not given a chance to be running for a position. Then we said, well, what about August? And then it was said that, well, maybe people take off in August also. So we did discuss it. Nobody really chimed in on it, but we did discuss it.
I'm sorry. I may have stepped away from my computer at that time. Sorry.
No problem. I just know that we were all on there because it was mentioned about July, and then it was mentioned about August, and it was saying that, you know, to give them time to get it, to know about the position, to take over and kind of be familiar. But it was mentioned about the fact that in July, there will be like members missing. Then it went to August, and then September was mentioned. But
and I think the rationale too, that I think it was Bibi who actually talked about some of the ideas behind it, was that like if the members are just started, you know, and they don't even know each other and they don't even have a feel for each other, that kind of makes it hard to even vote. And then, but if you have a couple of meetings together, then it would sort of make it would just make voting in September after a couple of months together would just make it would make more sense, because then people would have a little bit of experience. And also that first meeting, like I remember we had some it created some bad feelings because, you know, like Erica she didn't even know the process for elections, because it was literally the very first meeting of the council. She didn't know that she could still run for a position and things like that. And so because she couldn't make it because she had something planned for that a month.
Right. So I think we have to go along, right, Ted? I mean, listen, so I honestly, I know I was at the last meeting when this happened. I was at for the until 10 o'clock at night. I think we were all there. I may have stepped in to get my Chinese food when I ordered it, and I didn't hear this part of the conversation. I strongly feel for the future and going forward that we should definitely have the elections in July. And then if all fails, then we meet back in August. And if all fails, you have September. We can't guarantee, back to Erica's point, that people will be there July and August, even if you want to say we don't want to leave time for people to get to know each other, right? Members may be on vacation, whatever the case may be. But I always say again, people know what they're signing up for. They know these meetings are ahead of time. It's the first Thursday every month. The good thing about this cycle this year, and for now, I guess it's virtual. I strongly feel that we should continue to have the elections and the voting for the positions in July. mean, I don't know, what does others think?
I agree.
So since we have two sides, let's just take a quick vote, and then we can agree on what we think is best for BB. I guess we can ask BB to give us a little feedback on what her insights are. BB?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think these are valid points everyone is raising, right? So the first one, VJ, you're correct, right? Most councils do strive to have their election in July when the new term starts. However, members are new and really don't understand the process or understand the individual they're selecting to be in these, positions, officers. And I think this also speaks to what Erica just raised, that folks might have planned their vacations. They don't know that the meeting is happening. They don't even know if they're going to be a candidate on the CEC because they have to go through all of that vetting and voting. I would say that the point that Ted was raising, going all the way through September and not having a president in place, pulling the council together, even though that does not limit your power, you still have the powers to exercise decision based on voting. You might consider a middle ground, having it July or August. But then again, members have to weigh in because
I think August actually is harder.
bylaws.
I think August is harder with vacations than July, because July is the first week of July, right after school's over, right? I think that July is easier. August is actually a bigger vacation month than.
Well, one of the things that BB brought up, and again, I just want to say that this is one of the issues that, we had this discussion the last time. It was on the table. I'm sorry for those who either don't recall it, but now we're discussing it again. And where we were supposed to be coming to the table to just say, hey, we're voting on it. So anyway, my thing is, one of the things that we learned that we did not know previously was that you do not have to be present to be running for the office. Which means if you're in August, as long as you have quorum and the person made it known that they want to run for the office, they do not have to be there. That's something that we didn't know, which BB and Paula had told us about it later on. So that's something that could be told to the people. Again, I feel August is perfect. That's my opinion, because you just started, you're in office, you're getting to know the person. Usually that's our first time meeting, other than when we have our orientation in June, to really get to know the members and see what their intentions are, for them to even give their little speech on why they want to be president, vice president, second president, treasurer, and then voting on it at the next time.
Other members?
Barbara.
Barbara.
Robert raised his hand first, and then Barbara.
Sure. So I think this was kind of discussed, but I feel like this is something that at the very least should have a vote of at least 6 people. I'm completely opposed to this. This is like, as far as I'm concerned, completely anti-democratic. Cannot simply add 2 months to your tenure. It is what it is. This is the way it's been for 20 years. We're not here to rule the city. We're here for our district. It's always been in July, and it should just stay the same as it is. Whether it's us or someone else, they can decide whatever it is, right? We walked in on day one. We didn't know what's going on. VJ was the one who was here before. We chose him to be the president because he knew how it worked. And I remember forget her name now, but she said at the time, like, that's just the way it's always been. And, why change something that clearly has worked for this long? So as far as I'm concerned, it should stay the way it is.
Barbara?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yeah, I'm here. By right, our term starts in July. And it's funny that I didn't think that we would be digging into this tonight again, because we already had discussed it. To me, it's just, for us to spend another half hour, 45 minutes discussing this again when we already discussed it, to me, it's too much. And her term start in July. We don't start in August, we don't start in September. Her term start July 1st or whenever date it is. So the election should be held in July or August. That's it.
All right. So how do we proceed?
Anybody else? Well, I want to make sure I give all the members a chance to speak, right? So because we all take a chance to talk. So Any other member want to say anything before we move to a vote?
I agree with Robert.
Anybody
Yeah,
else?
he's right. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to a vote. All in favor of, okay, let me put the light on here so you can see me now. Okay, all in favor of, what we said,
VJ,
July.
Can we stop sharing the screen?
Sorry,
So we
yeah,
can see people?
I can stop, but I don't think we need to vote. It sounds like most people want to do in July. I mean, that's just what it sounds like. So if everyone's okay
Well,
with that.
let's just do things, listen, let's just do things the right way, Ted. I understand what you're saying, and I hear it very loud and clear. I just want to make sure we're clear on this, right? So all in favor of July. VJ, I am, Barbara,
Agreed.
Elena.
I'm in favor of July. I'm sorry.
In July, yeah, July.
July. Yeah, just say July, September when you call your name. Erica.
August.
Andy.
I'm in favor for August. July, I will be away.
Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let's see here. Next person is Ted.
I don't have a strong opinion. I mean, I kind of thought the September idea sounded good, but I'm okay going with July as well.
Mike is not here. Robert.
July. I'm in for July.
Howard, is he still here?
Apologies, Erica and Andy. I have to go with July.
No apologies needed.
Radwinder?
July.
That's how we vote. July. Okay, so July it is. Okay, so Ted, can you please amend that? And it'll be July.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
all.
I'll have to go back but I think it'll be simple now because it's just going back to some of the older language. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing. Let's see. The president. Oh yeah, and I need to add something here. The last, the senior. Okay. So BB, we just talked about how like the president, the sort of who would call the first meeting is based on sort of the senior most officer that's still remaining from the previous cycle. And I just noticed under the recording secretary and treasurer that it was missing that language that the recording secretary and the treasurer will exercise the powers and perform the duties of the other officers if in their absence. And so like I think you need to have it seems like you need to have this language in order. Let's say the treasurer is the only one left over from the previous cycle, then you need to have this language in here that the treasurer shall exercise the powers and perform the duties of the recording secretary in his or her absence, where that chain of command goes all the way up to the president. So if all the other officers are not present, then that means that the treasurer exercises the power of the president in his or her absence. BB?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Like you're talking about chairing a meeting?
Chairing the first meeting, which is going to be the election meeting.
So let's
And
not
calling
get tied up with.
the meeting.
Okay, so let's not, you see, the bylaws is just a guide, right? So we gave you a script. We gave all our CEC members a script to follow through for annual elections. You have a script, you follow through. There's a part for the administrative assistant, and there's a part for the president. VJ, I believe you conducted the elections for officer July, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I did, yes.
Yeah, so there's a script. We do the script for you. You just follow it through, and then officers are elected, and they go into their position. Right, so you don't really follow the bylaws for CEC annual elections. The script is what you will follow, and that's given to you by the FACE liaison.
Okay, all right. And then the only other thing is like down buried in the bylaws below, there was this thing, I just missed it when we had a bylaws meeting, but it says that we should have a mechanism for developing the calendar meeting agenda. And I have, I thought we need to talk about this because I've been to CC meetings where where like that's actually what they talk about in the business meeting. Like they sit there and they schedule out the agenda for every month. And then, and I just kind of noticed that our council never really developed a process like that. And I don't know what mechanisms people usually put into their bylaws, because I haven't seen the bylaws of other councils. So I was wondering, Bibi, if you could just weigh in on this and give us some information.
So the template and the bylaws give you a sort of like a draft or a template for your agenda, but normally your agenda and best practice, right, is your agenda will go discuss between the president and the administrative assistant. And that's how it's, I want to say that's how it's drafted out. And then it's shared with members. And then you give your input. And I think you, in the bylaws, you are stipulating a timeline of when items should be sent into the AA and your president to be put on the agenda.
Well,
that is correct.
Yeah.
I think
That is correct.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I see in the agenda section is just how to put a resolution on the agenda, and there's nothing else in regards to the calendar meeting agenda. And I just
Can I chime in?
Yeah, go ahead, BJ.
So can we put in the bylaws that council members have to give notice if they would like to suggest items for the calendar meeting, right? Or speakers or anything they would like to add. We have something for the business meeting already, right? Which is like 2 weeks notice. Same thing applies. If you want, oh no, they have to give us notice like Crystal, we start planning like May meeting right now at this point, way ahead of time. So at least I would say, Bibi, correct, help me out here, a month notice or the prior
I think
month.
you already, Vijay, I thought you already asked for that in the last meeting that you had, and you had a time.
That's what I thought.
There were 10 calendar days ahead of time in order to allow for translation.
The discussion we had at the last meeting was only for was only in regards to the business meeting, and there was nothing about the calendar meeting in that.
So I would say that for the calendar meeting, Crystal, I start planning the calendar meeting and getting speakers. Like right now, I'm discussing May meeting already with Dr. Pate and getting speakers and different community members to bring, because they have busy schedules, right? So I would say if council members would like to have items or things to be put on the calendar meeting thing, they should give us at least a month notice, like 1 month before, 3 weeks minimum notice of what they want to submit, so that way we can determine, prioritize, and understand what's going on currently and who's the best people. Crystal, what do you think?
I agree. It takes some time, so that would give us a lot of wiggle room just in case to fill slots if we need to.
And just to give you an example, for example, like this month's calendar meeting, we're trying to get Council Member Lou to come and speak about the Asian hate crimes that's happening, trying to get NYPD representation to bring information about what is being done about it. It takes time to really get them to really go back and forth. So that is why I'm trying to say minimum a month, or like at least 3 weeks notice before to suggest. Doesn't mean that what you say is going to go on will go on, right? You can suggest that, and then we can respond to you and say, well, we have a full calendar already. Oh, you know what? We can put it this month or next month, and that's going to happen that way. Does anyone disagree with that plan for the bylaws?
I would just add a suggestion that maybe in the order of business at the business meeting, that we could just have a discussion about the next month's agenda.
I agree.
At the business meeting.
I agree.
Like,
So
and
the previous month, yes.
And if you already have, like, if you kind of mentally have already like planned something out, like, oh, well, we were going to invite these people, like, just kind of tell us what the mental plan is at the business meeting, so that like if people have other ideas, they can kind of weigh in a little bit.
I agree. So I think let's put it on like, let's put it in somewhere to say that at the previous business meeting, the upcoming month's calendar meeting will be up for suggestions. Sounds good?
Sure.
Beautiful.
Anyone else? We sort of move it along, right? Because
so what I'm gonna, this is the last item. So what I'm gonna put is 3 weeks minimum notice to suggest items. It's not guaranteed, but just to suggest, and then also adding it to the. And then
let's
also
keep it to the last business meeting. Let's keep it to the last business meeting. So you come to the last business meeting with suggestions. Keep it simple.
Okay.
Keep it simple.
Does anyone else want to comment on this item about developing the calendar and meeting agenda?
So Krista, what that means is that like what we have to do is add, I think we should definitely add this now, just as a good practice for the rest of the year. To add on our business calendar meeting next month, like May month's meeting, like May month calendar meeting. So we can always, give options for discussion.
I see. Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you, Crystal.
Sure.
Okay,
Thank you,
that's the last item that I have. So, and I think we should just, if the public wants to comment, put speak in the chat, and we'll give people a couple of minutes if they want to, speak about or weigh in on.
Ted,
yeah.
Ted, I'll take care of that. Of that. Thank you. So, public members who are here, thank you, Ted, and the bylaws committee for doing the work that you're doing with this bylaws, and thank you all council members for being here tonight to, as we go through this process. It's a long process. We understand that. That's why we have to spend the time to do it. So thank you all for doing what you're doing. I know we are waiting for BB and the DOE to get back to us on the last thing we discussed, where the DOE is reviewing those practices about code of conduct. Once BB send that over to us, we'll have another meeting and we can finalize these bylaws and have it up at our name. We're hoping to have next week, Tuesday, a special meeting to finally get their feedback from DOE, which we will add that feedback to the final draft of the bylaws. We'll have that, and just so council members know, this is the process. We have to go through this process. This is not because of VJ or because of Ted or the bylaws committee. This is the process that we have to go through to get the bylaws adopted. If we don't do it the way we're doing it right now, then it'll take 5 months, because each month calendar meeting is when we have to do it. So we're just doing it really this way so we can get it passed by our April 1st meeting. So we're hoping that next week, Tuesday, the 30th, I think it is, we'll have another special meeting to get the final draft of the bylaws. Then we'll present that to the public. They'll come to look, they'll come to view, and we will get your final feedback from the council members. And then we can say, hey, this is what we want. We'll send out our final draft to the public to view, and then we can vote on this at our calendar meeting on April 1st. So is there any public members here who would like to add anything to this bylaws, or any comments from you? Does anyone put the words, did anyone put this word speak on the comment? Did anyone put the word speak? If you would like to do so, please put the word speak in the chat section of this meeting.
No one.
No one? No one? Okay.
A small quote today.
No worries. That's
Makes
going once.
it makes it easier for the rest of us.
Going, well, we're doing the hard work. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, so that's us passed. Okay, I want to say this to all of you council members here who are here tonight, or joining this meeting tonight. I want to say also that we have been having a few people commenting about the special meetings. We want to get things done, right? And if any council member requests to have a special meeting, I can't dismiss their request. I will definitely take their request seriously. And also a special meeting request has to be accompanied, BB, correct me please, by 2 other members saying yes, they agree for a special meeting. Is that correct, BB?
3 and the president. 3 has to bring it to the president.
So 3 members of the council has to bring it to the president and say we want to have a special meeting, and then we can, and I will say yes or whatever it is. But most likely I'll say yes, right? Because
I hope so. I hope it's a valid reason.
No, I would say no. Imagine. Okay.
And we had like 6 or 7 people that agreed to it. So.
And then we have a meeting. So just going forward, we want to have this next. Maybe just to make sure on your end, we are agreeing that on the next Tuesday is when your team will have the final draft of the code of conduct part. Yes.
So we're meeting tomorrow at 1:30 to be, specific. Give you a specific timeline. Okay. So tomorrow 1:30. So I should have some answers for you the very next day, at the least.
Okay. So pencil in everyone the 30th, next week Tuesday, which is when we meet face anytime anyways, that we'll have another special meeting, pretty short, just to present the final draft of the bylaws. Review will send to us, and we shall be done with the bylaws, which is amazing because we get this done in 1 month, which is amazing. And I'm proud of this council for doing so. Thank you, Ted. Last thing I want to discuss here, I would like to draft a resolution about from CEC28 in response to the rise of hate crimes against Asians. Our district have a very large population of Asians in our community, and I would like our constituents to know that we, the CEC, stand with them in this effort. So I had asked Crystal already to look into the various councils in the city to see if anyone else has passed a resolution already about this. And if so, we can use it as a template to build and to support and to get one passed. If anyone else would like to be co-sponsors of this resolution, please, please, please send me a quick, I see Howard raise his hand. Anybody else, just send a quick, email or a quick text to me. So when we draft it, I can say, hey, this is coming from the entire council, whoever wants to be on this resolution as a sponsor, as a co-sponsor. And I'm hoping that when we send out our next invite notice for our calendar meeting in April, we'll attach a link to that resolution so members of the public can see it, have time to view it, and then we can vote on that resolution at our next calendar meeting. We have confirmed, I was trying to reach out, get Congresswoman Grace Meng, who was a big part of getting the city to pass what they passed for the crimes against Asians, and also Senator John Liu. We have confirmed that he will be here on the next meeting, together with NYPD Precinct 1, 3rd Precinct, to speak about the rise in these crimes, and also what could people in the community do about it. So it'll be great if we can also put a resolution out on the same day about this topic. Ted Chang, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad you're raising it, BJ, because I've been just like, it's been one resolution after the other, but
good,
we hadn't even had this funding resolution meeting, and then I because of all the events that have been happening this week, I've been like thinking about and I've actually started ideas in my mind and how to draft a resolution. So I don't know, how do you want to have an actual meeting to sort of like exchange ideas on drafting a resolution? Because I put together some language, but I don't know how you want to formulate it.
What you can do is just send out that resolution. You have already the draft version, right?
Okay.
And all council members just send out that draft and say all who want to join in this, and send out the draft. And that way, then everybody else could join on, and you can add whatever they're gonna add. We have an end date to add information, suggestions.
Okay.
And then we have a final version.
All right, sounds good.
Sounds good? And then we can have everyone else's names listed as co-sponsors of this resolution. Sounds good?
All right. Sure.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, council members, we are going to have a quick check-in meeting with BB right after this. So I'll bring this meeting to a close at this time. This meeting is adjourned. The time now is 7:41 p.m. This special meeting is adjourned. Dr. Pete, are you there still? Dr. She is there.
I'm here.
Oh, so,
Yes, I am. Hi.
sorry, and Sonia, you are there too, right, Sonia?
Yes, I am. Good
okay,
evening.
so I'll ask, good evening. Sonia, I'll ask you to say a few words if you like to. Anything you want to add?
Just good evening. I'm excited about this resolution. I'm excited about the work with the bylaws. I know it can be dry and tedious, but so necessary to have that guidance so that you continue to move forward with the work in the way that's transparent, that's organized, and in compliance. So I'm glad that you're doing this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And
Oh,
Dr.
VJ,
Pate?
really quickly, I'm sorry. Now that Elaine, I think when we took the vote on the resolution, we weren't like 100% sure about Elena because she like stepped away from her desk. Do you want to clarify?
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Okay,
Thank you,
great.
Elena. Thank you, Ted. Dr. Pate? Any closing remarks?
No, I'm happy to be in the room where it's happening, right? That's it. This is the work.
Like history is made, right?
I'm in the room where it happens.
That's a great Hamilton reference, Dr. Pate.
That's it. Oh,
Okay.
Broadway. Thank you all.
Oh, yes. I love Broadway. We have a Broadway trip.
Right.
Okay, excellent. So at this time, BB, anything to add? We're gonna jump on your call right after this.
Nope,
really
I
quickly.
think you're good. You're good.
Thank you.
I'm really
Okay.
happy to hear that you speak to, you know, incident that occurred and you're writing up a resolution on behalf of your community. So always great job, D28, for advocating.
Yeah, you know, we are your, I'm gonna remind you, we are your best
Yeah, I know.
counsel.
I know.
And
Dr.
just in
Faith
case you
is
do-
my
you forget-
Let me
witness.
find the reaction button.
She will never say that on
There.
camera. Let me tell you that.
One more reaction there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
it's all love.
Okay.
It's all love. It's all-
Congratulations to Elena. I don't know what happened, but what happened, Howard? You said congratulations to Elena.
Oh, let's not advertise this.
It's okay. Also, I just want to say I got